The Lighthouse 2019 comes to us from Robert Eggers and surrounds of two lighthouse keepers on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. Hello, I'm Hay, and today I'm joined with Theo, Danny, and Evan, and we're here to talk about The Lighthouse.
Timberman, want with being a wiki.
Just looking to earn a living, just like any man. Starting new.
On the run.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about The Lighthouse. I'm joined with three hosts this week. A little controversial movie. I actually saw it with Danny and Evan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, that is true.
So they're here with me to talk about it because we're outside the theater as we normally do, and I just thought I was like, this is fun talking about this, but let's bottle it up. And then of course I'm joined by one of our new hosts we've been having on, Theo.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, guys?
And I'm gonna let Theo, because he didn't see it with us, I'm gonna let you go first on general thoughts on The Lighthouse.
They're almost closing thoughts in a way, but I think it went well. As an introduction, I sort of think that this movie, The Lighthouse, it kind of feels like something that you could pull from the annals of early cinematic history, and I think that comes across very obviously in a lot of its shots, and it's just like its techniques, or not even techniques, excuse me, just a lot of its like iconography. I thought of this especially when some of the characters are running. It looks very much like a lot of 1910s, 1920s silent era, like Charlie Chaplin-esque kind of shots. But there's like subtle techniques and symbols and iconography in there that can only be done today. So I'm thinking a lot of like the camera movements, the shots. There's like a particular few that I was really impressed by that. So because of this, I think it's like a really good retro movie in the sense that, like, for example, Shovel Knight, you think of it as like, oh, that's a retro game. But the colors and everything were definitely 100% not possible prior. It's just like the technology now can kind of enhance that feeling of like retro, but with kind of technologies of the new. And so I think The Lighthouse is a great example of a retro movie that like inhabits the spirit of the old, but with the sensibilities of the new.
Okay, nice. Danny, this is your first time on. Sort of roped you into this, but what are you going to say about The Lighthouse? Just general thoughts from you.
What Theo said, I definitely agree with. It has an old school feel.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like outside cinematography, we're talking about like what actually goes down in the movie. You'd be hard pressed to even put a label on this movie because it's like a lot of different things. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't like the movie that much. Mm-hmm. I had a very to me a Midsummer-ish feel, like Midsummer, and I wasn't a very big fan of Midsummer.
Wow.
So sorry for throwing under the bus.
That's a tough comparison.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it was a. It was because it was so bizarre. It was okay. It was
no, I think it's a good comparison. I disagree.
So?
Well, no, because me and Danny had a similar experience with Midsummer, so that's
it was a very jolty. I guess so. Like
I describe it that as like frustrating.
Yes,
movies like that.
Yeah. So on that note, that movie did do that incredibly well, in my opinion. It gave you this feeling of dread from beginning to end, almost like from the very get go. There's this sound, like
the boat sound,
and it's like in your head the entire time, and like that everything's escalating. It's escalating throughout the entire time. It does kind of drag on a bit, but the feeling of like dread and like claustrophobic feel too as well. Yeah, the black and white definitely helps out because you feel like the light sources that's all you get for sure. That does look cool in this one little room. And being in a theater, you almost feel like you literally are in that room. It's almost
at times feel that way.
I feel like I'm in this movie. I don't like it. If you like that kind of immersion, I think this movie does that very well.
Yeah, gotcha. Evan, what are general thoughts from you? Just going around the table.
Well, I can similar thing. I can appreciate everything, like the look of the movie, a lot of the acting, some of the acting, like Robert Pattinson. Just because it's recent, I'll compare it. Joaquin Phoenix and like Joker. His acting and his like descent into madness, it's like good acting. And Robert Pattinson's and Willem Dafoe's, I can't put a finger on what they're trying to do. I like a lot of the acting. It's just I don't think it's a good like character arc. Kind of this leads to this. It's a lot of random kind of bottle episode nonsense where they're stuck in one place and they're slowly going crazy. But I don't know. It just kind of didn't work for me in that way.
pitch it. I'm going to start hand up saying this. The public opinions do sort of shape my opinion.
Yes.
You know, it's impossible not to stay away from that. What bothers me about this movie, as the minute it existed, is so many people every part of the year they were saying, "Oh yeah, I have my top 10 list, but the Lighthouse hasn't come out yet." They were also naming Parasite too, and even then, like I'm excited to see Parasite, but you can't already say, "Hey, this movie is going to be a top 10." It's infuriating to me because at the moment it just feels like people are just like, "Oh hey, we're supposed to like this,
Yes.
so therefore here's a good score for the Lighthouse." And there's people, Theo, when we were talking to someone yesterday, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the Lighthouse was okay," and they gave it a 9 out of 10. Like,
it's an okay, yeah. If you give it, if it's an,
you know what I mean? It almost feels like it's like, oh hey, like I don't want to look bad if I'm rating this poorly because so many people love that.
No
and I have a question for y'all. We all know how Rotten Tomatoes works. It's just a yay or nay. How on earth is this 91% on Rotten Tomatoes? This is a super controversial.
How many reviews?
There's plenty. Like I looked and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like
I'm sorry to clarify. Is it 91 critics or audience?
It's 91 critics, also 81 audience. That's a thing that I was surprised about.
That's why.
Maybe it's because it just released, but like I just find it so fascinating that I saw a completely different movie from everybody else. Because the thing is, Evan's right. Like, if you were like playing this on a display, because I agree with Theo. Like, there's masterful. Again, you guys are saying the good stuff in this is good. Stuff. You know, the work behind it to make it look like an older movie. Love it, especially the run. You mentioned the run, and I completely agree because like they lowered the frame rate or something to achieve that. And the black and white, I think, is good. For if it was color, this movie wouldn't work for sure. I do disagree. I think the aspect ratio was too much.
There's a lot of fog in old movies.
Because I don't necessarily mesh like with the aspect ratio. I didn't buy into it. Mommy is something that does something similar. I think it does it phenomenally. The point is, all of this is to say there's tons of great stuff with the Lighthouse. I think the comedy actually works really well, especially in key moments. The thing that I get weirded out with is you look at IMDb and it's like, hey, if A24 is trying to pitch this, like the production company does usually like say, hey, here's the genres to expect. And I'm not saying things have to be confined by genres, but when you list drama, fantasy, horror, thriller, mystery, all before comedy, that's telling me like, oh, hey, this movie isn't even supposed to be funny. Which maybe that's completely wrong.
Wait, no, I'll go to that. I don't think you can.
I don't think it has a genre.
A true horror movie that's listed as a comedy.
Honestly, yeah.
Whoa.
I disagree.
Name one.
Babadook.
Evil. The two guys versus.
That's complete comedy, though.
No,
it's not horror in any way. It's not horror
Mayhem,
at all. Like Evil Dead isn't a comedy, or isn't a horror movie. It's a comedy.
Where's my other poster? I disagree with that.
Horror and comedy, I think, are two. They're not good genres, but they exist. For and so, like, I think every movie has just naturally elements of horror and comedy. And I think it's easier sometimes to just put something that's specifically trying to invoke one extreme as like a horror comedy. But so that's why I think you're totally right that like it's very difficult to sort of place movies like The Lighthouse into a box because
for sure. I just think it's odd that they wouldn't even mention comedy.
If they put comedy on here,
part.
People would be confused. People would yell at them because they're like, "This isn't funny at all."
Most
people wouldn't find this.
I'm also gonna rant, Theo. You weren't a part of this. Evan was in the bathroom, and that's okay. To the person that was at rave, that was working, that asked me about the movie. Hey, thanks for asking me about the movie. Like, I love discussion with people after the movie, just talking to everybody, getting opinions. However, you asked me what I think about the movie, and I said, yeah, I'm not sure if I liked it. I don't know if it pulled everything and it fits well together. And he says, oh, that's not the point. It's not supposed to make sense. And I was like, yeah, dude, I understand like movies in general. I don't know.
I feel like he was the embodiment of what you're frustrated
about. That's what I mean. Yeah. Like, that's what bothered me because he was like, bro, this has an 81 on Metascore. Just like, you can't say it didn't fit well together.
I just imagine hundreds of other people with that same mentality. And
that's the thing that I don't understand.
Shout out that opinion.
I gotta wait. I gotta wait to see the critic consensus for like both of them just to see like what happens. Because I consider IMDb to be like the average Joe Schmo and that right now is at an 8.3, but not that many people have seen it. So it'll be really interesting because a similar thing happened with Hereditary, a film I like, that I think is challenging to audiences. And I think this is equally challenging. I don't
more
know.
challenging.
Yeah.
For sure.
Really, I'd argue it like, yeah, I think you're right. It's like honestly one of the most challenging movies I've seen recently. Well, in terms of theatrical releases.
For sure. I know you haven't seen this, Theo, but I felt a similar way with Monos, the movie I saw a couple
yeah.
The acting was great. All aspects of the movie were great, but for whatever reason, I was just sitting there and I was like, this isn't like working fully. I don't know what it was. And it's very similar case here. Here's one thing I have to talk to you guys.
Okay.
I'll throw out my thoughts before, just so they're out there. In terms of Oscar buzz, this film is garnering. People are on crack if they think this is going to get nominated for Best Picture. If they think Willem's going to get nominated, or sorry, if Willem's going to win, like,
yeah, I don't think so.
After seeing it, right?
Yeah, it's amazing, but it's not really
the type of performances that they normally cling to.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's challenging even to people who are like, which I would say I was very guilty of, for probably even now, people who are like, oh, I like the film. I watched the A24.
Yeah,
like this is
those
even to that, like that crowd, you know.
It's another thing that like seems weird to me. This is a little bit separate tangent, but it's just weird that a movie like this, because I feel like there's plenty of movies like this that are very weird stylistically, very weird choice-wise every year. And they're usually just small, very small movies. And maybe it's because, just this year I've been doing stuff like for the podcast and being like active on film Twitter. So maybe that's just hearing that hype surrounding and realizing there's a small like niche of people that are propping something up, being like, oh, get excited for this, get excited for this. Because I was thinking about it. I was like, if this isn't Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, are people excited?
Yes. So I think that's a great point because, like, just for me, because I got a very useful medieval history degree, I really like these types of movies. But so that's why I was very enamored with The Witch, and why I'm not as hot on The Lighthouse in terms of emotionally, but I have come to really warm up on it. But exactly what you're saying. I think that the two lead actors give it a prominence. The name gives it a prominence. The label gives it a prominence because just off the top of my head, I can think of A Field in England, which has gotten like some buzz, but is another example of a black and white, weirdly atemporal historical movie that is not really classified or easily classifiable. And even just off the top of my head, another one is Hard to Be a God, which is another like black and white medieval historical weird sci-fi history.
He likes when the people are dirty.
Yes, blood and mud and shit and fart. It's like that's just very medieval humor. But like I agree with you. I think that if this didn't have the backing of like the brand name, it would just be kind of, double A tier, or it would be kind of like middling in terms of popularity at best.
Theo, sure. Give us your double rating take.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like it's movies like this that I just say, yo, I can't give you a real real impression because like this is very much meant for me. This is my you should edit this out. This is my Black Panther. So that's how I felt about the
Whoa. You said this is my Black Panther.
Oh,
God, the medieval nerds.
No, bad joke. But
these are
so
his
like
people.
Right. And that's why I can't talk to other people about The Farewell.
You said that about Jojo Rabbit too.
Too much. No, I didn't. What?
I'm joking.
So I think like for me, I give it a very high score, but I think in general, I don't think it has the immediacy of The Witch. I don't think I'm really happy it's popular, but I agree with you. It's kind of a hype.
How long have we been on this rock? 5 weeks? 2 days? Help me to recollect.
Okay, guys, just to wrap up general thoughts, Theo, on a decimal scale what would you give this film?
That's difficult. I would say personally, after a lot of thinking, for me, I settled on 9 out of 10. But I really don't. It's a score that I wouldn't really share with others because I think that would lead to unfair expectations.
Gotcha. Interesting. Danny, what would you score it?
I would give this movie a 3 out of 10.
Oh, fascinating.
Yes.
Well, I don't hate it quite as much as them because I give movies credit if I can really appreciate a lot of the stuff they're doing, even if I don't think it comes together. I'm gonna go about a 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 3.8 out of 10.
Ooh, wow. You really thought about it.
Yeah, no, I did. Well, the problem is I told Evan after I liked Midsommar better, and I gave Midsommar a 4, and maybe it's in the 4 range. So this is probably like a low 4 or like medium 4, depending on where Midsommar is. The problem is like this. Theo's right. This is a movie like that doesn't necessarily beg for a rating. There's a lot of movies like that, and I don't want people seeing a 3.8 and immediately my friends, like, because they know I wasn't as high on Midsommar. Evan put in the chat with our homeboys. He said, "Oh, Hayden likes Midsommar more than The Lighthouse," and they were like, "Okay, so he hates The Lighthouse." I don't want people coming across like I hate this movie. I like the conversation that is keeping people engaged. I'm glad other people are loving it. We've been talking about this for like 20 or so minutes so far, and that's without spoilers. This is a movie that is important to the film world, and just because like it didn't resonate with me as much as others, don't take that to heart or anything like that. But
So
want to open it up?
Hayden doesn't give points for ancillary things he enjoys in a movie.
No, I do.
Oh, interesting.
Well,
That's not the de facto.
you liked
score,
the
though.
shots, though. You liked some of the acting. You like stuff about it, but you
Again,
don't really
okay,
give points for that.
What pushes me more is where the plot progression goes, how characters grow. I like that stuff.
Yes.
That's why you'll see the Boy and the Beast poster behind you. You see Star Wars behind you.
Boy and-
I am very much like the hero's journey is my favorite journey in film. And I understand like that's probably generic and that's okay. Like there's people that would love
I
this.
definitely agree with that. For
Yeah.
sure.
And I'm not saying that again to people that are like, oh well, I guess he just doesn't like experimental movies. No,
That's not the
I do.
case.
I love Persona, and that's a weird, really weird movie. And there's a movie here that I want to enjoy. And I like the Witch a whole lot more. But yeah, we'll open this up for spoilers. If you guys haven't seen the movie, shoo, get out of here. But make sure to subscribe and give Willem Dafoe a little toot.